What's going on, guys? Welcome back, and today I'm going to be bringing you my review of The Mandalorian Chapter 14, The Tragedy. Now, as always, I recommend every episode of The Mandalorian. I think it's a really good show, and this episode is no exception. I think this is one of the best episodes of the show, and probably one of the best episodes of this season thus far. But once again, this is basically just a massive spoiler within itself, so I should just get right into it. So we start off where the last one left off. Ahsoka sent Mando and Grogu to Tython to put Baby Yoda on the Seeing Stone. So rather than having another filler episode, thank God, they jump right into it, and Mando just arrives, puts Baby Yoda on the Seeing Stone, and then starts whining at him as to why he's taking so long to start the ritual or whatever. But we see a familiar ship, the Slave One, fly down and land on the planet. Mando heads down there to see what's going on, gets a couple blaster bolts shot at him, and then we hear a familiar voice say, "I've been tracking you, Mandalorian." And I don't know how he necessarily tracked him. Perhaps in Chapter 5 of the first season, he put a tracker on his ship and he's been tracking him since, or maybe he's only been tracking him since Chapter 9, but I don't know when he would have put a tracking device on the Razor Crest. But geez, how many tracking devices are on that ship? Or maybe he's just been tracking him, like following him in his ship and then asking around as to where he's gone next, and then he's just been following him that way. Maybe he didn't even put a tracking device on his ship. I'm not sure. But a hooded figure walks up, and of course it's Boba Fett, and he says, "I'm looking for my armor." Mando confuses him, saying, "I want the armor with his armor," but he actually wants just his armor from Jango, or that it belonged to Jango, and he said that, yeah, it belonged to my father Jango Fett, it was passed down from your forebears, but Mando's like, "Oh, it's against the Mandalorian creed if you're not Mandalorian," and he's just being, a pretty stoic guy, but then he says, "Oh, I've got Fennec Shand from the first season, who he rescued and gave cybernetic implants after she got shot by Toro Calican. She's up on the cliff pointing a blaster at Baby Yoda," but he says, "Hey, if you give me the armor back, I will ensure the safety of you and the child." So Mando's still kind of not sure about that, but we don't have a lot of time to contemplate because the Empire shows up. I've been waiting for them to show up for like 2 episodes. Finally, they show up. They send down a troop transport. A bunch of stormtroopers head off there. Mando heads back up to try and get Baby Yoda off that stone, but Boba and Fennec start taking on some stormtroopers, and that was just an epic action scene. Probably the best we've ever seen Boba Fett in action, and this is where I really get why people like this character in terms of his fighting capabilities, because, man, Tamora Morrison is getting old, but he did awesome. He's not a young guy, but I believe he did most of this stuff. There was probably a stunt double at some points, or there probably were stunt doubles at certain points in the action scene, but man, was he cool. But Mando tries to get Baby Yoda off the stone again, but it's not working. He's not coming down. So he leaves and then heads back down to help them out with the fighting. Boba at one point sees that the Razor Crest's door is open, so he decides to head out there and get his armor out of there. Fennec and Mando are fending off the stormtroopers, but they're getting a little bit overwhelmed. Then Boba comes in with his armor, and all together they just take on the stormtroopers. Eventually, the weird tribunal thing, the weird message that Baby Yoda is sending out to any other Force users, ends. Moff Gideon sees that from his light cruiser up in the atmosphere and sends down the Dark Troopers, which confirms that the weird suits at the end of Chapter 12 were in fact Dark Troopers. So he sends them down to claim Baby Yoda or to take him back up to the ship. Mando sees that, but before we can really celebrate our victory, before we can really head off to save Baby Yoda, 2 blasts come down from space and take out the Razor Crest, and it's just obliterated in like 1 blast, and like there's nothing left except for the not the vibranium. I keep wanting to say vibranium, wrong franchise, but the Beskar spear we find out later, but we don't have a lot of time because Mando has to head back up the cliff to rescue Baby Yoda. Boba heads off to get the Slave One, and he and Fennec start running up the cliff to try and get Baby Yoda, or to get to Baby Yoda before the Dark Troopers do, and they're coming in real quick, and then they start slowly walking towards him, but just as Mando and her get up the cliff, they take off. Boba tries to make pursuit in the Slave One, but they call him off the attack because they don't want to hurt Baby Yoda, but he heads up, and he's like, "Oh my god, the Empire's back." And they're like, "What? No, this is under the jurisdiction of the New Republic." And he's like, No, they're here. I can see with my own eyes. So then he heads back down. Mando kind of mourns the loss of the ship and he gets the Beskar spear out of there, and then Boba shows him a little thing. He's like, this is my chain code, Boba Fett, this is me, this is my father, Jango Fett. And Mando goes, oh, your father was a foundling. And he's like, yep. And he fought in the Mandalorian Civil Wars. And then Mando's like, well, that's fair, and that's yours. That's your armor, and our oath is fulfilled. But then Boba's like, no, I promised you that if you return the armor to me, we have an oath to you now to ensure the child's safety. So until he's safely returned to your care, we have to honor that promise we made to you. And that really hit me hard after just rewatching. Like, I've been rewatching Clone Wars with my sister, and we just watched last weekend the Boba arc, where he tries to get revenge on Mace Windu, but in the end gives up the information on where the hostages that they took are being kept because one of his father's best friends, I believe Hondo Ohnaka, says, hey, it's the honorable thing. It's what your father would have wanted. And Boba is now becoming like his father. He's being an honorable man. He's being a man of his word. And I loved that, because if Boba showed up in the show, I didn't want him to just be a bounty hunter taking bounties from Moff Gideon or something. I wanted him to actually help out and be a good guy. And that's what he's doing. Boba's actually being a good guy. He's helping out. He's being a man of his word. And that's just really powerful to me, because Boba, if you ignore the films entirely, like the original trilogy, Boba's never been better. Like, he's really getting a lot of growth, and that just made me so happy to see him helping Mando and keeping his word. And what I also didn't expect was, like, now I'll just give you my overview of the episode. I liked it a lot. I loved the aesthetic of the planet, just the greenery, all of it. I don't know where they filmed it exactly, but it looked beautiful. I loved all the action. It was shot very well by, I believe, Robert Rodriguez. He did a great job directing it. The action had a little bit of shaky cam, but you still shot well enough where you could still make out everything, and there was wide shots, and it was just really awesome and just great fan service for people who wanted to see Boba. And I don't think Boba's ever been better. This was just awesome to see him taking on the Stormtroopers, and you finally get a vibe of, well, the claim that people have made about him being the greatest bounty hunter of all time. You really see that in this episode, like how formidable he really is as an opponent with blasters or with just a gaffy stick. Like, he's just cracking the Stormtrooper's armor. Like, he's doing some real stuff here, and it was cool to see him taking on all those guys. But what I did not expect was I expected this to be like another filler episode. I expected them to go on a side adventure, then maybe in the 7th episode they go to Tython. No, they arrive on Tython at the very beginning of this episode. He puts Baby Yoda on the Seeing Stone. And what I did not expect was for the transference, or whatever that is, the weird message he was sending out, to actually finish. The ritual or whatever was completed. And I don't believe we'll see a Jedi in the next episode, but I do believe we will see possibly Luke Skywalker, or most likely Ezra Bridger. I think we're going to see Ezra Bridger appear in the next episode, or in the finale, I think possibly at the very end, because I don't think that they would have a Jedi help Mando, otherwise it would just be too easy to take down Moff Gideon. So I do believe we will see Ezra Bridger appear, possibly in the final episode of this season, kind of leaving that hook for the next season. But Boba is going to help out Mando now, and he made an oath to Mando that he would help him and, like, ensure the child's safety, and that he was safely returned to his care, and that until then he was in his debt, or they were in his debt, him and Fennec Shand. But at the same time, even if they get him temporarily back from the Empire and into Mando's hands, he's still not safe, because he has the Empire chasing after him. So he's not really safe, even if they do get him back from the Empire temporarily. So they have to ensure that this remnant of the Empire and that Moff Gideon get taken out. They have to ensure that. But yeah, that was awesome to see Boba taking on a bunch of guys, and the episode is basically an elongated action scene, but it was still just awesome. It was well shot, it was well executed, and it was just nice to hear, Jango's name and hear the quote from Attack of the Clones, "I'm just a simple man trying to make my way through the galaxy," or the universe in the case of Attack of the Clones. And he says, "just like my father." Like, that was just cool to hear. It was just cool to hear his voice again, and to see Tamora Morrison actually doing all the stunts. It's just awesome to see. And it's just, they really care about the fans. They really care about giving them what they want, while also delivering a good story. And this is how you do fan service right. They've really nailed it with this show. Like, this show is just the definition of how to do fan service well. But yeah, even the intro, the tragedy, that hits different because the music, rather than going dun like it usually does, it goes dun like it gets all dark. Like you feel like this is gonna go dark. And although some people may see that as a mislead because there wasn't really a major death or anything, like it was just the Razor Crest getting destroyed. But honestly, the Razor Crest getting destroyed really hit harder than I expected because I can't think of another ship in Star Wars that they've established so well that it would actually just hurt to see it get destroyed like that. Like there was nothing left. Like we've seen ships, like we've seen the Razor Crest get pretty beaten up, but it's just gone. Like it's just obliterated. Like it was disintegrated. And like the only other ship I can think of in Star Wars that I would be really hit by if it was taken out like that would be the Falcon, obviously. But yeah, they did a good job establishing that ship. They did a good job just making it feel like its own character. So when it got destroyed, it was just like, geez. And Boba obviously felt that when Mando had the child taken away because he was there. He witnessed his father getting murdered in Attack of the Clones. So he's seeing, the other side of that. Like, what if a father lost their child, basically? And that hit real hard because you could see by the look on his face, he understood what Mando was feeling there. And that was really well done. So this episode was just really great. This was just awesome. I really do think that they did a great job establishing Boba Fett. He's going to probably be a mainstay of the series moving forward, maybe even a major player in season 3, sorry. But yeah, this was a great episode. This is one of the best episodes of the show, one of the best of this season. I know people are saying it's the best episode. I wouldn't go that far. So far, no episode for me has beat Chapter 3 from the first season, but this comes pretty close. This was a really good episode, and it struck the balance between being kind of a little side plot and also just being a really enjoyable episode in its own right and having a lot of stuff for people to enjoy and a lot of heart and soul to it. So this was great. I really loved this episode. And we do see, as kind of the epilogue to the episode, Mando and his new crew, his new buddies, Boba Fett and Fennec Shand, they head back to Navarro, and he talks to Cara Dune and says, I want you to break out this prisoner, last name Mayfeld, and it's Bill Burr from the first season, from episode 6, and he might get that crew to help him out. And then we see Moff Gideon walking onto his ship. They have Baby Yoda, and Baby Yoda's just knocking around some stormtroopers. He pulls out the Darksaber, and he's like, oh, have you seen one of these before? But you don't get to play with this yet. And then they stun Baby Yoda, and when they stunned Baby Yoda, I was like, frick you! Like, I was so mad about that. And then the last shot we close out on is just Baby Yoda in these tiny little handcuffs. And I was just like, oh my god, I'm so mad. But that was a really good episode. We're getting a vibe on where it's going. And I do believe that besides Mayfeld and the rest of them, like Mando needs Mayfeld, he says, to track down Moff Gideon's light cruiser. And I do believe we will see Bo-Katan return, if not in the next episode, in the finale. Because I feel like we're going to see Mando's group and Bo-Katan's group converge at the same time. Maybe coincidentally, and maybe he goes back to her for help because she did say the deal is still open if you change your mind. And we know that she's also after Moff Gideon, so they probably will converge at the same time and we'll have a fight. Maybe even the New Republic will get involved because the Kim's Convenience pilot from the earlier episodes, he evidently thinks that these issues are a big deal, like the Empire. These aren't isolated incidents. They need to be stopped. And I think he and Dave Filoni may help out. Maybe they'll even bring in a fleet from the New Republic to help out. I don't know. These are all just theories. Like, a lot of stuff happened in this episode that I did expect. I expected Baby Yoda to get captured, but I also didn't expect the transference to be completed, so we will probably see a Jedi appear at some point. And there was just a lot of stuff that I did expect and I didn't expect, and I didn't expect there to be so much good stuff with Boba Fett, oh my god. But yeah, this was a really good episode, and I'm looking forward to the next one. You guys, please let me know all your thoughts in the comments below on The Mandalorian Chapter 14, The Tragedy. What do you think will happen next? Whatever your thoughts are, just please let me know in the comments below. And of course, as always, I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.